Daf Mem Hey Amud Beis will begin Mem Hey Amud Aleph, the last line. Rav Shimon, the son of Rebbe, asked the following shayla from Rebbe. Patzilei Tamor, if you have unripe dates, they're called Patzilei Tamor. They're put in wicker baskets to ripen. They place them there and then they ripen on their own. But in the interim, they're not ripe. Rav Shimon Mahu, what would Rav Shimon hold in such a case? These unripe dates, are they considered muksa? They have not yet ripened. Are they considered muksa on Shabbos? Amrlei ein muksa Rav Shimon el groigres v'tzimukim bilvad. He said the only type of machal, the food that is considered muksa, according to Rav Shimon, are the case of groigres and tzimukim. The case that we learned before, where a person puts to dry on the roof, he puts raisins, he puts grapes to turn into raisins, and figs to turn into groigres, into dried figs. So the criteria is over there that you have two factors. You have one, that the person put them on the roof to dry. So he's doichet biyadayim. He pushed it away from him. He's now put it out of his mind that he pushed it away from his use. He put it up to the roof to dry. The second factor is that in the interim, as it's drying, it's not edible. So he answered that you have food items, it's only groigres and tzimukim that you have both of these factors. That he is doichet biyadayim, he actively pushed it away from his use, and secondly, it's not usable, it's not edible. Mashenkim, but the Batzilei Tamor, even though they're not ripe, he was not doichet biyadayim. So therefore he said the Batzilei Tamor are not considered muksa. It's only groigers and tzimukim, or items of that nature where you have both factors, that he's doichet biyadayim and that it's not edible. V'rekti Gemara v'Rebbe Leslei muksa. Does Rebbe not hold a muksa? Meaning, we're assuming that since Rav Shimon Rebbe asked Rebbe the shayla, what would Rav Shimon hold by muksa? Presumably, he holds like Rav Shimon, and presumably, therefore, he does not hold like Rav Yehuda. Meaning, and Leslei muksa, he does not hold of the stringencies of the chumras of muksa like Rav Yehuda. Is that so? Does he hold like Rav Shimon and not like Rav Yehuda? Vatanan, we learned in the Mishnah, ein mashkim v'sheichen es hamidbarios. Animals that graze out in the wilderness, in the wild, you cannot give them to drink, or you can't shech them on Yantiv. They used to give the animals, they used to water them, give them to drink, so that after they shechted it, the skin would be easier. It would be easier to skin them. And on Yantiv, animals that are not muksa, it can be shechted for Yantiv. But the Mishnah says, "Ein mashken v'shoichem esamid boris." Animals that go and graze in the wilderness, in the wild, are considered muksa. So ein shoichem, ein mashken v'ein shoichem. Aval mashken v'shoichem is a baisus. But domesticated animals are not muksa, so that's mutter. V'tanya elohen midborius. So what's the definition of midborius? Wild animals that graze in the wild. Kol sheyeses b'Pesach v'nichlasses b'Reviyah. They go out, they leave the owner's residence, they leave at Pesach time, and they only return by the first rainfall. Baisus and domestic ones is kol sheyeses v'royes chutz l'tchum. They do graze outside the tchum. They have to look for pasture. They go outside the tchum. But in the evening they return, and they return to the tchum. That's the Tanakhama's opinion. But Rebbe says, Elu ve'elu baisus. He says, no, both of these are considered baisus. Ve'elu hen midbarias, what are considered midbarias? Kol sheroyas be'ekfer, ve'in nechnases liyishu v'loy b'yimoysa chama v'loymoysa geshamim. He says that they go and they graze in the pasture, and they don't come and return, not in the Moisa Chama, not in the summer, and not in the winter. So apparently, since Rebbe is defining what are midbariyas, therefore he holds like Rav Yehuda, because l'chayra, even midbariyas, even midbarias would l'chayra be considered, according to Rav Shimon, not muksa. Now, if we're saying that, according to Rav Shimon, it's only gregos kutzimukim, meaning only things that you have both factors, that he's doicha biyadayim, he pushed it away, actively pushed it away, and it's not roy. The chayra, according to Rav Shimon, he would seem to be holding that midbarias, even though they graze out in the wild, but he's not doicha biyadayim, so the Gemara is assuming that according to Rav Shimon, he would hold that even midbarias are not considered moksa. Now, if Rebbe is defining midbarias, we're assuming that Rebbe therefore must be holding that midbarias are moksa. So doesn't that show us that he holds like Rav Yehuda and not like Rav Shimon? From the Gemara by Sema, one answer is Aninami Kigrayis Vitzimukindami. One answer is no, he holds like Rav Shimon. And midbarias, even Rav Shimon would hold that it's muksa because it's similar to gregers and simukim, as Rashi explains, because these animals that graze in the wild, in the wilderness, the owner actively pushes them away. He drives them away from his house. So you have both factors. He drives them away from the house, and he does not anticipate using them. They're not usable because they're not around. They're not around for him to anticipate that he's going to get any use for them. So according to this teretz, really, Rebbe holds like Rav Shimon, and midbarias, Rebbe would also, and midbarias, Rav Shimon rather, would also hold that they're muksa. V'vaysim, another answer is l'dor of the Rav Shimon Komerle, v'lei loisfirle. Or alternatively, this shaila that Rav Shimon asked Rebbe about Patzilei Tamora, that was a theoretical shaila. That was what would Rav Shimon hold. But Rebbe himself does not hold like Rav Shimon. V'vaysim and other answers l'divrei the Rabbanan Carmel. Alternatively, Rebbe does hold like Rav Shimon. But this over here that it's brought on the Mishnah, the definition of midbarias, over here Rebbe is going according to the shita of the Rabbanan. He's saying lididu lasli muksa klal. He's saying that Rebbe says I hold like Rav Shimon. So I don't hold that these are muksa at all. But But according to you, you hold like Rav Yehuda, you hold it's muksa. But you should be minded to me that if they come back and by the first rainfall, they're not considered muksa because they do return to the house. And the Rabbanan argue and they say that no, these are considered midbarias. So we have the different possibilities whether Rebbe holds like Rav Shimon or not, or even whether Rav Shimon would hold that midbarias are considered muksa like gregos and simukim. They said, he said in the name of Rav Yochanan that the Omru, they said in the base medrash, the Talmid Chachamim, the Rabbanan said the Allah Rav Shimon. That's how we hold, we paskin like Rav Shimon. So we're assuming at this point, what Rabbi Bachana said to the Rav Yochanan Omru, that was said over in the base medrash, meaning that he himself holds that way. He holds that the halach is like Rav Shimon. Frank the Gemara, Rav Yochanan Haki, did Rav Yochanan say the halach is like Rav Shimon? From the place Kriya Sri, he asked Rav Yochanan, he asked the following shaila. Can you carry a nest of a chicken? Can you carry it on Shabbos? He said the chicken coop, is it used for anything else other than Tarnagoylam? It's only used for Tarnagoylam, so therefore it's muksa, it's also to be metaltal. Meaning, the way Taisus explains that Balei Chaim are considered muksa. They're considered muksa, even according to Rav Shimon, like gregers and simukim, because they're not usable. Live animals are not usable on Shabbos. You can't shech them. Live animals would not be fed to the dogs. And he's doicha biyadayim, he pushes it away. He doesn't want the dogs to get the live animals, so he pushes them away. So the live animals themselves are considered muksa, even according to Rav Shimon. However, the chicken coop in and itself is not muksa. It could be used for other things. The only reason to consider it muksa is because it's designated for something, for a muksa purpose. It's normally used for Tarnagoylam. However, to say, therefore, that the kina shel tarnagolim should be muksa because it's used for the tarnagolim which are muksa, that's only according to Rav Yehuda. Rav Shimon l'chayred hold that even though it's normally used for something that is dover that's muksa, but in it itself would not be muksa. It could be used for other things. And as Taisus explains, it's not considered a bosses l'dover ha'aser, even though Rav Shimon holds that the tarnagolim are muksa, but the kina would not be a bosses l'dover because the chickens hop on and hop off, they go on and off, they don't stay there. So it's only would be considered a muksa, davar muksa, because its designated use is for tarnagolim. That's only muksa according to Rav Yehuda, not Rav Shimon. So don't you see over here that Rav Yochanan apparently holds like Rav Yehuda and not like Rav Shimon? Where it says, we're talking in this case where there was a frayach that died on the Shabbos. Now, if it would die before Shabbos, it could be fed to the dogs. But over here, it's an afrayach that's now in the kina. The afrayach mace, which died on Shabbos, is muksa because the person had no anticipation that he was going to be able to use that afrayach, and therefore the kina is considered a bosses l'dover also, which would be muksa even according to Rav Shimon. The Gemara Hanich Lamar Bar Amemar Mishmei, the Rav, that's the Rava rather, the Amar Moida Rav Shimon, but Balechaim Shemesu Shal Surim. Well, that's fine if you hold that Rav Shimon is Moida, the Balechaim that died on Shabbos, that they are Surim are considered Muksa. Lamar Berei, the Rav Yosef Mishmei, the Rava, the Amar Cholok Hayar Rav Shimon, Afil Balechaim Shemesu Shem Mutarm. But according to the Man, the Amar who holds that no, Rav Shimon would hold, even if they died on Shabbos, they're not Muksa. We don't consider them Muksa because there might have been an anticipation that they were going to die and will be usable for the dogs. So we don't consider it as a davar muksa, according to Rav Shimon. According to Rav Shimon, it's a davar muksa like Gregor and Simukim. If he's doich be a diamond, there's no anticipation that he's going to use it. But over here, according to the Man Domer, it says, Balechaim Shemesu Deidan Shader Mutorim Ma'ikel Meimar. Why should the kina be considered to be muksa bosses? From the Gemara Mayas Kina, but the is bebeya. It has in it a beya. The kina has an egg that was noilad on Shabbos, that was hatched on Shabbos. So that's noilad, and noilad is muksa, something that did not exist before Shabbos, and now it exists now. That's something that came new into the world on Shabbos is noilad, and that's considered muksa. No, noilad he holds is not a more chomer dika category of muksa. He says the one who holds a muksa, Rav Yehuda holds a muksa, he's lay noilad. The less lay muksa, less lay noilad. But he holds that according to Rav Shimon, he does make a muksa. He would hold that noilad is also not muksa. So according to that, how are you learning? How would you learn here? The Gemara answers the isbe beyas afrayach. It has in the beya an afrayach, a chick. So therefore, this would be considered a muksa because it has no use. The beya will not be eaten by a person if it has a chick in it, that has the embryo of the chick in it. It will not be eaten by a person, and even an animal will not eat that. Will not eat that type. They will eat a chick, but they won't eat a beya that has an efrayach, an unhatched chick in the beya. So it's not usable. So therefore, it's not usable. Therefore, it would be muksa even according to Rav Shimon because it has no use. So we would consider it like a case of stones. Avonim, Tzroiras. Now there Rav Shimon is also minded to muksa, and it's something which has no value, it's muksa machmas gufa, it's inherently, it's useless. Something which has no intrinsic value, like stones, normal stones. I'm not talking about stones with a specific purpose, but regular stones lying around on the street, those stones are muksa, even according to Rav Shimon. So this, that has the kina, that has the beis afrayach, which is considered muksa machmas gufay. Rav Shimon will moida that they are muksa, and the kina would also be considered muksa because it would be considered a bosses l'davar haser. Meaning, since it is somewhat common, since somewhat commonplace for there to be a Beya and a Beya Safrayach in the Kina, and has a designated use for it, and it's considered to be a basis l'davar also, and Rav Shimon would also be Maida. So that's one approach. So according to this approach, Rav Yochanan holds like Rav Shimon, and he passes like Rav Shimon, and this case over here that we're talking about, this case over here, it would be muksa even according to Rav Shimon, because we're talking that the Kina has a Be'ez Afraya. He also Rav Yitzchak Rav Yisam Rav Yochanan. However, he says Rav Yitzchak, where you have said in the name of Rav Yochanan, halacha ki Rav Yehuda. He says no, that Rav Yochanan says the halach is like Rav Yehuda, not like Rav Shimon. Rav Yishu ben Levi Amar halach ki Rav Shimon. But Yishu ben Levi says halach Rav Shimon. Amar Rav Yosef Hainu da Amar Rabba Baruch Han Amar Rav Yochanan. He says now we understand what he said originally. Rabba Baruch Han is saying with Rav Yochanan Amar halach ki Rav Shimon. Meaning originally we thought Amar means the Bnei Yeshiva, and Rav Yochanan agrees with it. But now that we hear, when we see what Rav Yitzchak Rav Yosef saying in the halach is Rav Yehuda, the interpretation is Amru, not that they said and Rav Yochanan agrees. Amru, they said, others said the halach is like Rav Shimon, but Rav Yochanan himself, he holds that the halach is like Rav Yehuda. And therefore, you have no issue with the previous discussion. We don't have to get into that masu matam, because Rav Yochanan, according to this, paskins like Rav Yehuda. So Omru overlay lo yisfirle, but Rav Yochanan himself does not hold like Rav Shimon. He holds like Rav Yehuda. Amalei ba'al Rav Yosef. He said to Rav Yosef, "Ba'at le tizbra Rav Yochanan Rav Yehuda." What was your havamina? Wouldn't you know clearly to begin with that Rav Yochanan paskins like Rav Yehuda? What was your shaila to begin with? How Rav Ava Baravasi Ikal Bei Rav Ava min Cheva, they went to that place. V'nofal menartal glima de Ravasi, and a menorah fell on the garment of Ravasi. V'loi tiltala, and he did not remove it. My taima, why did he not remove it? It's muksa. Why is it muksa? My taima lam mishum de Ravasi talmid Rav Yochanan. It must be the Ravasi is a talmid Rav Yochanan. Ava Rav Yochanan Rav Yehuda Sfir lady Islay muksa, and it must be he was following the sheet of his Rebbe, and Rav Yochanan holds like Rav Yehuda. He holds like Rav Yehuda that he's machmer on muksa, and therefore the menorah would be considered to be muksa. Because if he held like Rav Shimon, why wouldn't he be metaltal? No, you can't bring me a riot from that, because menat is shiny, a menorah is different. If it's a menorah that it's not so heavy, you can carry it with one hand. It's not so heavy that it requires two hands. If it can be required with one hand, it's not muksa. Bishtei yadav also l'taltla. With two hands, you cannot. We only hold that it's muksa by a ner. Is Rav Shimon that if it's muksa machmas mius, that it's not muksa. So just because it's an old menorah, he says, I agree with Rav Shimon that does not aser mukmas machmas mius. However, otherwise, av menorah beinit hanitla biyoda achas beinitla b'shtei yodav also l'taltla. But he says by menorah, whether it's with one hand or with two hands, it's also to be metaltal. V'taimamai, why is that also by this menorah, this heavy menorah? Rabbi Rav Yosef Damar Tavai Hoil of Adam Kavei Makam. Because over there, since it's heavy, then it's considered, for instance, like a piece of furniture. A person's Kavei Makam, he has in his mind, he designates that it should be there in a certain place, and therefore he puts it there, and he's makatza dasman from it, and he considers that to be muksa. So you can't bring me a raya from the case of menorah that Rav Yochanan holds like Rav Yehuda, because a menorah that's heavy is in a different category. So therefore, he had a havamina that perhaps Rav Yochanan paskins like Rav Shimon, but in fact, we're saying from here that he paskins, Rav Yochanan paskins like Rav Yehuda.